Hello and welcome to SME TV. I'm your host, Angela Vithulkas. This is our 5 in 5 show. That's 5 tips in 5 minutes from our experts, plus a little bit about them as well. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can support us and all SMEs. And of course, you should share, like, and comment. Today, we're going to ask a very serious question: how to defy the odds, or rather, how to kick the stats out of the park for family businesses. Well, joining us today to answer that question and a few others is Kirsten Taylor-Martin, Partner, Private Advisory from Grant Thornton. Hello, Kirsten.
Hi, Angela. How are you?
Welcome back, by the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to read a stat that you gave me.
Okay.
Only 12% of family businesses successfully transition to the third generation. It's very sad.
It is, and this is a stat I want to just totally kick out of the park. I feel that with better education and more understanding that the businesses are different, we can make a difference. But at the moment, a lot of family businesses don't even know there's specialists out there that can help them. They even understand that they are unique and it is different what they need to consider in their business.
Well, why should we hold on anyway? I mean, we're saying that 12% of family businesses successfully transition, but why bother?
And look, it is up to each family. Some families don't want to pass it to the next generation, and we're seeing at the moment a lot of the younger generations actually don't have interest in the family business. They're doing new and different things. So I think a little bit of it will change what it looks like to what it looked like in the past. But then there are other businesses where I've got this great story where, Dad said, he actually emailed his children and said, I've decided I'm selling the business, because they were all around the world. And the kids were mortified. Like they all looked forward to the day that they could join that business and work with their dad. Like they just looked up to him so much with what he'd created, and couldn't wait till they could come back to the business and be part of that with him and learn from him. And they actually wanted to work together for generations to come.
It's ironic because often there's that lack of communication, not in a serious way, but just that no one comes out and says, you don't expect your child to come up at some point and say, I can't wait to join the family business. It feels almost like it's an unspoken expectation. And then suddenly when they're facing a choice, it's like, oh no, I don't want to let it go. I want to go back. I want there, because we grow up in these businesses. We have this connection. And then suddenly the parent has to make a choice. And what a beautiful expectation there, and a great ending to that story with a new beginning from the next generation. But it's not always that easy.
No, it's not always that easy. There's a lot of issues that you can go along the way. We say the process takes like minimum five years if you really want to do it properly. We at Grant Thornton talk about the 7 hurdles of succession planning, and they're the big things that we see that can really undo successfully passing the baton to the next generation. And you want at least 5 years to be able to work your way through the different things to make sure that you're not part of that statistic.
It's another interesting perspective, because most people might think that transition should be a lot faster and quicker. But when you look at the fact that family business has been in existence probably for decades, with all that IP and experience, of course it should take a reasonable amount of, respectful time to hand over the reins to someone else.
There's also a number of elements that are very family business orientated. So with family business, you find they always keep putting the money back into the business.
Yep.
So when they decide they want to step away, in many cases, they don't have any money outside of the business. So they don't have wealth to be able to step to, because they've just put everything they have into that business. So that's why you need a little bit of time to plan it out. Also, if you've got someone who has dedicated their life to a business, it's like their baby that they have nurtured the whole way through, to expect them to one day just walk away and not step back in.
Yep.
You need planning for that as well. And that's nothing to do with finances. That's what are you going to do with your time?
So, and very briefly though, I do want to touch on something, because I know that at Grant Thornton, you guys really highlight a family charter or a family rule book. And so before we get to the 5 tips
yes.
for defying the odds, just briefly tell us about the family rule book, because I think that should come with every family business.
Yes, and when we were talking earlier on about the succession plan, and you commented they just hadn't communicated it with their children, and this is one of the really big problems we find with family businesses. There's like a lot of assumptions and just not actually coming together as a family group to discuss. So a family rule book is definitely not mum and dad telling you what you have to do. It is a facilitated conversation where everyone comes to the table and you talk about what you want the future to look like and what you need to consider in getting there. So, for example, if I'm in a family business, do my children just automatically get a position, or do they need to apply for a position that's already there? Because there'd be nothing worse than having to fire one of your siblings' children. So by having the conversation earlier on and saying what the entry rules are and what you expect from them and what they need to deliver upon, everyone has an understanding. So when they do enter that business, there's no miscommunication there. You know what you need to do, and if you don't comply with it, it's a much easier conversation than had you not had the rule book in place. Look, I often use the Megxit as an example.
Yes.
And I also talk about, if they got together now, it'd be very difficult for them to create a rule book because there's so many issues and problems there. So the best time to do it is when you say, I don't need one, everything's going fine. Perfect. Sit down, have the conversation and talk about what you want the future to look like, what could happen. And someone may want to leave the business at some point in time. What do you want that to look like? And have that conversation now so that the business can still thrive and you still have a really good relationship with your sibling or your child or grandchild in the future as well. So a really big advocate, and it's not something that you set and forget, because things evolve, things change. You'll think
people get married, more kids come into play, new spouses come into play. There might be multiple spouses that come into play. It can be a big problem that shouldn't have anything to do with the operation of the business, but flows onto it. And I think it's also a way of the staff that aren't part of the family but are part of the family business. It's a way for them to be able to respect the processes and the structure too, because you shouldn't just automatically get a job because you're related to the owner.
Absolutely.
You need to earn that.
It causes a lot of disrespect and uneasiness with the management team.
I agree. Okay, so we're on the clock.
Sure.
We're going to start. We've got 5 tips or 5 questions that we need to ask here on how to kick the stats out of the park, or how a family business can defy those odds that we mentioned earlier. So number 1, you need to make a choice, right? But what's the choice? Sell the business or pass it on to the children? What's difficult about this question?
Usually communication. Usually it's just not discussed. So that's our key thing, is just have the conversation. We had one business and they went through the whole process to sell it, got really great offers, spent a fortune of money, and then the son said, but I actually want to run it. And you can save all that money and spend it in passing the baton to the next generation if you actually have that conversation up front.
So if you find that is your choice, should I sell or should I hand it on? That's the communication to say out loud to everyone else around you. I want to sell either to you or to someone else.
Yes, and I think in Australia, I'm also accredited with Family Firm Institute, which is an international accreditation. It brings a different aspect, because in Europe and in the US, they can be up to 15th generation businesses, whereas in Australia, our older ones are sort of 5th, 6th generation. But what's quite interesting is it can be 15th generation. You think how many family members are in that, and it's just husband and wife. So they've just sold it down to a branch in the family.
Yep.
So I think we need to broaden the way that we think. So keeping something in the family does not mean that every single family member needs to agree or needs to be involved. You obviously need to come up with an equitable solution to make sure everyone gets a fair distribution, but that business does not need to stay with the whole family.
So number 2, stop your family undermining management decisions.
And this really comes back to the family charter and having a little bit of structure in place, but governance is really important. We talk about all the benefits of family businesses and being able to have informal conversations, but you've got to be very careful of that as well. So
that's the double-edged sword, right?
Oh, absolutely. And one example, a board decided they wanted to do rebranding for the family business. They got the management team to do the process. They did the whole process, came up with a new branding, sent it to the board. They loved it. Husband says to his wife one night, we're rebranding. And she said, I won't have it. And it stopped. And she shouldn't be part of that business decision. It was the wrong person at the wrong time. And can you imagine how frustrating that would be for a management team? They've just spent months and months and months on something they were asked to do. Board likes it. So you need to make sure you're having the right conversations with the right people at the right time, and everyone is aware of where they can put input and what decisions can be made and can't be made. So you need a little bit of formalities there.
And I think you make reference into your written work around this topic of pillow talk and the kind of damage that can do. Yeah. And that's, look, historically, that's how it's always happened. It's those third parties that come into something that pull it apart, but it also takes strong people to navigate that. And in order to have to not be the dominant strong person, if you have those governance structures in place, the rules speak for themselves. You can kind of go, those are the rules.
Yeah, we always say with family charters, yes, it's up to the family who they want to include and who they want to exclude. Yep. But it's the people that you exclude that can unravel it more, which is your whole pillow talk scenario.
Number 3, find the best form of communication with your family. Like any company, everyone is going to communicate in a different way. What are the choices here?
Specifically what I'm referring to is family members who aren't in the business. So you still need, I've said to you previously, like, you don't want to drown them at the dinner table with only talking about business, but you really do need to, when your children sort of get married and move on and aren't involved in the business, you still take them along the journey. So an example that I wanted to give was we had a client, and the son worked in the business and the daughter had headed overseas and got married. And when dad passed away, he left the business to his son and the financial assets, like the outside the business, to the daughter. And the daughter flew over to the funeral with her barrister to take action because she felt she was getting a raw deal. She felt that her brother was really well off and had done very well out of this business. When in actual fact, he was in a 1960s home with original carpet and hadn't at all. But what that was they had never communicated with her. They'd never told her how the business is going. And unfortunately, with people, when you don't tell them, they assume the worst.
Yep.
So what I really want to say is that you need to be just, whether it's a quarterly update, but some sort of structure to sort of say, this is what the business is doing and where we're at from a really high level position, just so that all of your children know what's going on and there's no assumptions being made.
And no surprises.
Correct.
No surprises. Number 4, diversify your wealth. This is an interesting one.
Yes. So what we're finding is a lot of family businesses do want to diversify their wealth. So we're finding a lot of strategies around superannuation and dividend strategies to get wealth out of the business and to sort of set the family up. We're also seeing a lot of businesses diversify, so they might have a business in one kind of industry, and then they might start buying property and doing property development to diversify their wealth. And a really interesting one that I'm seeing in family business is sort of setting up like a family brand umbrella. So there was a property development business, and the daughter got a degree in and set up their own veterinary practice. and they actually brought that under the family brand. So it had nothing to do with their original business, but supporting their children in their own ventures, but keeping it under that family umbrella, which is a really nice way of doing it as well.
It's a good financial way of being able to leverage losses or gains in a different perspective as well, while
Correct.
Still giving everyone the ability to kind of access that financial support too when they're starting out.
And it's not a topic for today, but it's a much broader topic, but it's that family brand as well. So there's a real benefit in coming in under that family brand, but there's a huge responsibility with coming in under that family brand as well.
No such thing as a free lunch, Kirsten.
No.
Tip number 5, the benefit of diversity. Very topical, very topical.
Yes, and this is really broad as well. So we're finding family business in particular, they're not really, they haven't really addressed it yet, but this is diversity of thought. So this, not just your male, female, we're talking about age diversity, cultural diversity, industry diversity. A couple of really good examples, but I heard a CEO speak once. He started working for David Jones, and he walked into the board meeting and it was all men, and over 70% of their customers are women. And he just thought, you're wondering why you're not doing well at the moment and you have 0 female representative when they're your biggest customer base. I had another client and they were doing manufacturing and wanted to move to online retail so that they had a direct link with their customer. Same thing, he said, I walked into my boardroom meeting and they're all males, all in their 50s, and all had manufacturing background. And he realized that they needed to have age diversity. They needed women to understand the female consumer. They also needed to have people with retail and online retail experience. Otherwise, they'd never be able to get there.
I think the interesting perspective there is that it's a good business decision to understand the diversity. The tough thing about it being a family business is they might have to say no to someone, or say we need to bring people from outside the family in order to, create that extra dimension of diversity.
That's the interesting thing, because so many family businesses will say, but I've got all sons.
Yes.
Well, you need to look outside of the family, and it doesn't mean that they need to be like on your board or a director of your company. Family businesses, like the advisory board, is a really powerful where you can bring in different expertise and different people to give ideas to your business. So as long as, and this is what I sort of wanted to touch on, but you need to be open to the diverse ideas as well. So as long as you're open to it, an advisory board allows you to bring in all the expertise and different thoughts into your business and throw around ideas and come up with the best idea. But I think diversity of thought is really going to allow businesses to prosper if they listen.
And I think if their goal is to have a successful business, which that is who you serve first, is the prosperity of the business, then that shouldn't be such a hard decision. And as you said, having an advisory board should keep everyone's nose not getting out of joint, because it meets all the criteria. You're all about increasing the performance and the profitability of a business to have something there for the next generation.
Oh, absolutely. People still do have difficulty in having an outsider's view. That is something that they do struggle with a bit. But the businesses that I find that are doing really well are really open to it and want to hear other people's ideas and appreciate they don't know everything and that they can learn from other people and other ideas.
Right. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much. We've run out of time. We always try to keep within our time, but inevitably we touch on such great topics that they need a little bit more. We hope you'll come back and share even more about family businesses.
I'm happy to, anytime.
To all our viewers and subscribers out there, make sure you share this great interview so other people can hear about kicking the stats out of the park for family businesses. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. A big shout out to the SMEA Association for their support and making this channel possible. And if you have any tips or ideas, you can always send them through to us, news@smea.org.au. And of course, we're across all the socials. That's it from me. Thank you very much, Kirsten.
Thank you.